The murder trial for a retired Westfield police officer just wrapped up. Brian Fanyon is accused of shooting and killing his wife back in May of 2018. Western Mass News reporter Paris Dunford joins us live from outside the courthouse with the details. Paris, what can you tell us?
Mary, the jury heard closing arguments today, first from defense and then from prosecution. Now, defense made 3 points that they argued about the prosecution's theory. Now, they say they only gave half the story to the jury. Their claims that Brian Fanyon shot his wife, Amy, are unsupported by science. Instead, they say she shot and killed herself. And their argument is unsupported by who Brian Fanyon was and is, stating he could not have possibly done this to his wife. Now, the assistant district attorney was up next, and she argued these points. One, that evidence suggests the gun had to be shot by someone else and not by Amy herself. That Amy's demeanor did not change prior to her death, indicating she did not kill herself like the defense suggested. And the defendant had a clear motive for killing his wife, as he was having an affair and felt he could not divorce her without looking bad in the eyes of his church and without sharing his pension with his wife. The decision is now in the hands of the jury. We'll have more on this tonight on Western Mass News at 6. But for now, reporting live in Springfield, Paris Dunford for Western Mass News.